My name is Erica Lorraine Spencer, and I remain subject to state surveillance and terrorism by the state of California that is operating a malicious targeting system, which is referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices. And it is in violation of federal stalking statute 18 U.S.C. sections 2261A subsections 1 and 2. My website and podcast serve the public good by publishing evidence of the public entity's ceaseless engagement in a pattern of conduct intended to stalk and monitor via communication devices, surveil, harass, and terrorize an American citizen in concert with the people of the state of California. Documentation serves the lawful purposes of wide exposure, federal prosecution, and influencing federal legislation with policies specifically designed to punish, dismantle, and disincentivize an unprecedented targeting system by a public entity that acts in concert with the people of the state in order to criminally place under surveillance and terrorize an American citizen, which is a matter of public corruption in the state of California. Erica Lorraine Spencer here. The following is an audio version of video evidence that is captured for purposes of mass distribution, which is why I am capturing it and sharing it on the podcast for evidentiary purposes and also to reveal the wealth of documentation that extends beyond what it is that I document on podcasts. Much of the video and images will be published onto the YouTube channel, the P.O.C, and it is also shared on the Google Drive. Again, this is for purposes of revealing what I remain subject to, which is federal group stalking and monitoring. It is a demonic system of state surveillance that the government is practicing in concert with the people of the state, and it should be known and well understood that for the government to engage in federal group stalking and monitoring, this is a crime that is committed with a criminal purpose to threaten the life of an American citizen. This is to conspire to murder and or permanently kidnap an American citizen while engaging in a perpetual sex offense in concert with the people of the state. Alrighty, I just want to show you what is a malice of our gang stalking. Shadow is right over here in the corner, and Amazon is engaged in surveillance. Walking in engineered light, delivering a package is P.O.C. Walking under the fake sun, standing in the path is surveillance in this specific environment. Engineered light in the shade. Fake sun moves as I move. Here's my shadow. This is the same light activity in the dark time when it's not dark outside, and there is no fake sun over me, and the light fixtures are also not the explanation for engineered light. Amazon Prime, as I'm capturing in the images, are engaged in surveillance. All right, walking around looking for an apartment, it's called pacing. Holding something in your hand is a demon trying to look productive. Sitting in the truck, they're engaged in surveillance. They're all sex offenders monitoring me while I'm sleeping. And as I'm documenting on the document entitled WSA-The People, the demons are engaged in psychological torture together while they maintain criminal surveillance together. This is a corrupt company, and if any of them are gang stalking immigrants, they're all going to be deported. 09313F1. 6A42707, going to federal prison, group stalking, living at the venue. And this is Amazon Prime engaged in surveillance. And the Ontario International Airport hovers in a Southwest Airlines plane flying in the direction east, not landing right here. So they're stalking in the path, which you already know because the fake sun is here. It's not remaining over Tracy Banks' living room window where it's remaining as I'm inside of her living room. License 07121R3, and this is a demon that's pacing. Again, 8G64758. And they're walking through engineered light. Their shadows, they're monitoring while they're doing so. And this is Amazon Prime. Gang stalking with LAPD, gang stalking with Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, gang stalking with Ontario PD, gang stalking with the demons who live at the venue. None of this is the sun that they're driving under, walking under, sitting in their cars, and this is surveillance and stalking. And it's on behalf of a corrupt police department that desires to kidnap and or maliciously murder, while the psychopaths seek to criminally defame the targeted individual. All right. The sun was over this same building at 8 o'clock in the morning. This would not be the sun. That's the malice of corrupt companies who hire those who are not natural born citizens to engage in criminal surveillance and domestic terrorism in this country. That's not why RGCs permitted the constitutional right to create businesses and employ those that engage in constitutional violations of others. That entire vehicle full of third parties is going to be prosecuted. And if any of them are not natural born citizens, they're all going to be deported. The fake sun moves as I move, as do the demons. That's surveillance of Amazon Prime. There is a wealth of documentation. Okay, Mr. Bezos, he's a corrupt actor. He knows exactly what the demon-possessed workforce carrying his brand are engaged in this country. Fake sun moves as I move over the same building that it was over at 8 o'clock in the morning. This is P.O.C. And there's nothing that these aged third parties are doing, including knocking on the door, that's going to cause the couch to vibrate. That there's nothing that causes sunlight to ricochet off of the window and appear in the shade. And there's nothing different about demons and third parties who walk in that same environment. With the cane, with the walker, with liver spots, with wrinkles, the entities engaging in the same exact malice. And this is the same exact environment for facilitation of P.O.C. And they're also hostile demons. And so as I'm sleeping, the elderly are engaged in ongoing psychological torture with Amazon, with RGC, with the demons that live at the venue. The old biddy is walking outside monitoring me, and you know that under the fake sun. Don't be deceived by the vessels that Satan uses. All right, this demon with the license plate I already read is stalking in the path. All right, reversing is they're doing so under the fake sun. Again, that's 86G4758 and gang stalking with Ontario PD. That's why he's going to federal prison. Ontario PD, as you saw in video, crossing path, all they're doing is stalking. Surveillance, standing in the path, sitting in their vehicle, Title 18 surveillance with Ontario PD prison. Okay, again, that's 8G64758, going to prison while psychological torture is practiced by the gang members who are Ontario PD driving by on Vine Avenue under a fake sun that's over the same property adjacent. It was over this building at 8 o'clock in the morning. There's no sun in Florida based on what the entity is doing. This is open exposition of the demon possessed who target in highly unintelligent manners, and their mental illness is therefore further exposed while they continuously do so in the face of documentation that they're monitoring. They know that they're going to prison because they've listened to their own prosecutor tell them what's going to happen to them, including being disbanded by the demons who are gang stalking as a corrupt police department. Okay, they gang stalk with the elderlies. These demons are over 55 and they're monitoring my genitalia. All right, psychological torture remains underway while they are hostile and envious because I'm going to sleep. And as I go to sleep, the apartment building is ongoing booming. And this is the demon that's stalking in the path. This is what Amazon Prime is delivering packages in. This is my shadow here. It's called light activity. The shadow of the band right here. This is impossible light activity. You can carry a dog. You can carry a body. Okay? You can have handcuffs on. All right, you can be driving an ambulance and coming in with a hose in your hand with putting on a fire, and it's the same P.O.C. Here's my shadow on the floor, and here's my shadow upright. There is, in other words, nothing that is going to deceive anybody regarding the demon-possessed who are engaged in domestic terrorism and psychological torture. And because the city of Ontario, on Paul Leon's watch, and the state of California, in the face of the federal government that's engaged in an ongoing federal investigation, which is in furtherance to murdering and kidnapping with demons who never go to sleep, do not have a job, and engage in stalking in room after room, never leaving the living room. That's the demon in apartment number 55. She's only leaving the apartment because she's obsessively gang stalking. As the documentation shows, she never leaves, never goes to sleep, never leaves from the position where I remain. And the fake sun is moving because I'm moving in the same way that demon moves in order to cross path because I'm outside of the apartment. She and all the rest of them in units 33 through 64 and AVANATH capital management employees are all going to prison. All of them, every single last one. All right, this is where the fake sun is setting, as you saw Ontario PD pacing over this strip of land where I'm at, and you saw a fake sun setting at 5:03 in the evening. That's not the sun. These are the demon possessed that are acting together. They're going to prison. This one in this sport truck, I read their license plate. They're going to prison. Everybody in units 33 through 64 is going to federal prison. They're gang stalking systematically, including with companies that AVANATH Capital Management employs as well. In order to do the landscaping, they're gang stalking. There's no sunlight that's ever going to create this light activity. And also, while the sun is over the Palisades, where reporters are under that fake sun, it's not over WOODSIDE senior apartments, nor is it creating that light activity. That's the pattern of conduct. Sunlight does not shoot through a peephole, let alone through a metal mesh, through a peephole, piercing into the depths of the apartment. This is all recognizing the malice of the demon-possessed, and those that are over 55 are exceedingly hostile to your constitutional rights, to your right to privacy, to your enforcement of your constitutional rights, and you will be treated like any other enemy of the state, enemy of the country, while you engage in terrorizing American citizens in furtherance of a conspiracy to not only murder and kidnap me, but to profit off of it. And that's the explanation behind a fake sun remaining over here and the entity stalking by the police stalking by the population who are all of the same condition, demon possessed. Okay, this is again combining with the documentation that I maintain in writing. So while I'm inside documenting, oh, the couch is vibrating, oh, ongoing booming amplified, the demon that you saw crossing path is not causing the concrete to crack, while that demon, nonetheless masculine and overweight, is nonetheless elderly, does not sleep. In the same way she's not causing this concrete to crack while she's walking, she's not causing walls and ceilings to crack either. That's the same supernatural environment where a fake sun also remains. It's supernatural. It's also supernatural that the couch vibrates while someone is purportedly knocking on the door. But these are the circumstances whereby the entity is maintaining criminal elements of monitoring. It is psychological torture, which is a program that the state employs while it's conspiring, engaging in what is a systematic means of murdering in order to kidnap you. And absent evidence, it's what the entity uses to criminally defame in order to accomplish that. Because the entity is caught red-handed and continuously does so, it is an impermissible threat. It is ongoing criminal acts of obstruction of justice. And the demon, whose license plate is 5WUV as in Victor 715, she is heavily documented. She acts on behalf of all of them. Okay, in concert with all of them, they're sharing elements. While they're walking outside, they're monitoring. While they're sitting in their cars in the parking lot, they're monitoring. While the demons are flying commercial planes and helicopters, they're all monitoring. And you also know that because a fake sun that's over the same building where it was at 8 o'clock, okay, while the demon was stalking behind this apartment door, knowing that I'm asleep, practicing witchcraft, and then running off under the fake sun in the engineer light. That's how you're going to surround the entity with evidence, speaking to nothing other than surveillance, revealing very severe mental illness, requiring prison and asylums for those at Woodside Senior Apartments and all AVANATH Capital Management employees. AVANATH is also civilly liable. All right, it is currently 1:29 p.m. This is the fake sun over the same apartment building, never leaving not only the property, it only leaves, as you see, as I walk around and capture demons. That's where the fake sun goes, where I go. The evidence of a population stalking you, and only demons are doing that. There, it's called monitoring. P.O.C. Okay, good afternoon. It is currently Monday, January 13, 2025. It's 1:49 p.m. These are some analytical notes for documentation, and this is for the prosecution of the state of California that includes the people of the state. And I just want to hone in on some details that I did acknowledge during the course of the video documentation captured at 1:19 p.m. today at a third-party facilitating venue, Woodside Senior Apartments, in the specific environment where the scientific phenomenon surrounding a government that is a corrupt public entity that is engaged in criminal surveillance in violation of an American citizen's constitutional and human rights. It is an exceedingly violent sex offense. It is domestic terrorism and psychological torture that a government is only employing for the criminal purpose of seeking to murder and or kidnap an American citizen, and does so while the entity is engaging in targeting that American citizen in order to provide what is the, again, through the entity's criminal conduct of targeting and psychological torture, the entity is using that same malicious conduct and any information, thereby relying on it to, for example, defame. So the Ontario police gang stalking, which is captured in this video, they're demon-possessed gang stalkers who will then engage in what is, for example, anything. So I'm just thinking of the topic, say a traffic stop, or coming and knocking on the door of one of the I've captured Ontario police doing every iteration of the P.O.C. where police are gang stalking. But in other words, it's whatever, any and everything that they're doing, they're entirely illegitimate. They are engaged in kidnapping and murder, not the any accident, any overzealous misuse, negligent use of force or anything. It's the reasonable expectation that there shall be loss of life when you have mentally unstable criminals that are being given the ability to exercise fictitious authority under the constitutions after they're being after they have taken an oath and masquerading as a law enforcement agency, and all they are doing is engaging in criminal conduct, that which they are facilitating, enabling, that is approving, that is serving the exact opposite purpose that police departments are supposed to serve, while they're gang stalking, monitoring American citizens, stalking them. And it is also entirely barbaric, and it's demonic. Okay, so this is the conduct that it starts with the police, the entity that's engaging in accumulating any information in order to criminally defame you as a criminal, somebody that's broken the law in any way while they're stalking you. But I just want to be clear, the targeting individual is not one that's even a criminal. That's not why the entity is targeting an American citizen, and anyone that perhaps has committed some crime and maybe they were formerly a part of this corrupt entity. The entity is capable also of engaging in targeting that American citizen who has, I would like to say, useful information to present against the entity. And so that's why that sort of American citizen still has constitutional rights to not be gang stalked and targeted, murdered, and kidnapped by the entity. But I'm just giving you a real life scenario where one that is a part of the entity perhaps doesn't want to participate in murdering someone, for example, and they are then finding themselves to be a target by the same gang members who are wearing badges and bearing guns, driving using the resources of the city in police vehicles, misusing the functions of those vehicles like the sirens in order to amplify, psychologically torture, gang stalk an American citizen. And only a psychopath, a demon-possessed one, uses such means to target an American citizen, not engage in any lawful or legitimate execution of their duties as police officers. So the reason why I'm going through all that to start is because I did capture video evidence, which is speaking to its inconformity. It's ongoing cumulative evidence because the document, the PDF that I upload on an ongoing basis entitled WSA dash the people, that's Woodside Senior Apartments. This is the venue where I remain. This is now where the venue identified by virtue of the scientific phenomenon that after all of the evidence, not even one time is it realistic, is it ever going to be anything other than the P.O.C. But not only that, the demon-possessed and highly unintelligent and woefully unprepared entity has provided another venue where the fake sun is rising and setting, and that is Woodside Senior Apartments. And it's not in the entire complex. It is literally over the building that I'm facing at Woodside Senior Apartments. Is very specific and very exclusive, not only in its placement, it's remaining at one location, but it's remaining over me where I am situated at that very specific location. And in the video you will see, as my person moves, as I walk on the property, the fake sun moves from its stationary presence in alignment with Tracy Banks's front door, her living room window, and her patio glass door, where no sun is ever going to create sunlight through the peep door. Sunlight is not ricocheting off of the window, creating the shape of the window on the outside side on the sidewalk and moving across the grass and whatnot and swiping across to be on the opposite side where units 43, 44, 46, and 45 are, and also at the same time ricocheting off at great and varying distances for the duration of the day, but also shooting through the window and creating engineered light, the shape of dots, the shape of lines that grow in size. They alter in concentration and they cycle about, move around inside of the venue, remaining for the duration of the day in all manner of location inside of the venue. None of that is sunlight. None of that is the product of what would be the sun. It would not have the ability to do so also because the sun is a constantly moving star that is not hovering on the roof of a building and then moving all of a sudden as I document, as I move all of a sudden. None of this is the sun, and that is showing that a police department is indeed a bunch of stalkers. They're gang members. Okay, they are not different from, I want to be clear, Crips and Bloods that they have been despised and in many ways ridiculed as, egregious criminals, and so are the Ontario Police Department and the police who fill the state of California. They're gang members. Okay, and they engage in what is the absence of any exercise of independent thought, because there's nothing persuasive or intelligent about the fake sun where you are present, and no federal investigator whose eyes have been opened about the ability for that which is in other words, the fact that it is demonic. It's only seeking to make the entity more creepy. It makes the entity more mentally unstable. It bears negatively on the entity that is engaged in targeting. It bears no reflection, again, on the targeted individual. And the fact that it is documented as a matter of solid proof will be evidence against the entity that is stalking. Period. Okay. Now, with regard to the extraordinary substance of the evidence, you take that extraordinary evidence and you apply the exact same logic. Okay, so that's what's happening here. And so in the specific environment, you have the police stalking. You have the people of the state stalking, and the people of the state at a facilitating venue happen to be 55 and over. And every single last one of them hovering on canes and walkers, having to take their diabetes medication, wear their edema socks, take their whatever medication they have for their cataracts and whatever other issues that accompany demon-possessed gang stalkers who are under no circumstances stifled or slowed down or persuaded from engaging in domestic terrorism and psychological torture in service to Satan, who is using their aged vessels just like any other young, virile third party or state actor. And they're going to prison all the same. Them and their physical handicaps. You will not be treated any differently. They are threatening the life and psychologically torturing and gang stalking just like any other demon-possessed gang stalker. And they did so with the Ontario police who crossed paths on Vine Avenue. All right, and so that's what I want to document, because not only will you see the Ontario police gang stalking, and the Ontario police are not at the center of this video, of the video evidence captured. This is the prosecution of the entire state. It's the evidence removing the demon Paul Leon from office and everybody under his demonic and corrupt tutelage. He's been there for well beyond what would be for any gang stalker, but for any mayor, I submit. This is no dynasty. You're not a king. And he shouldn't even be in office for 20 years, let alone he's entirely corrupt. He is a billboard for what should not be under any circumstances. Okay, so this is video evidence serving to remove the corrupt mayor and everyone under that corrupt leadership. The demons are flying commercial planes. And they're doing so under a fake sun, and they're doing so while I just so happen to be capturing documentation incriminating the people. That is in conformity to a pattern of conduct. The city, that is the state, engages in criminal conduct in concert with the people, as the people are, again, embarrassed. Okay, they are bullied by my documentation efforts, where they're supposed to be the gang of bullies that are intimidating me. And as I document the entity, as they are, for example, I'm just going to put in the vernacular, as I drag the demons, the entity acts directly, and that's supposed to be, and even though it's not, I am fully entitled to what any ordinary target individual shall be protected by, and that is a federal prison, while the state engages in gang stalking you directly with the police, or with any sheriff's department, or with demons gang stalking in planes over your head and in around you, seeking to psychologically torture you. Those pilots are going to be placed in asylums and prison. They're literally going to produce their identities to the feds, and they're going to be locked up. It's very simple. It's very simple. The entity is crossing path, and so I want to capture, again, the video is captured at 1:19 p.m. And again, this is January 13, 2025, and I am documenting license plates, which you will hear in the video, but this is, again, I want to be clear, what you will see at approximately 3 minutes, 3 minutes and 35 seconds. There is a demon in the license plate. It's a white pickup truck. He's engaged in what is stalking in the path with the method of light. And he's doing so with the same corrupt agency, the Ontario Police, who typically do so via helicopter. Okay, and this video is not suggesting that they're not gang stalking at the same time in helicopter. They're just not doing it in a perceptible manner. Okay, they are gang stalking, however, in a vehicle crossing path on Vine Avenue, criminal activity by the police department. It's facilitating surveillance. The entity is shown in the specific environment, so all the methods that an entity is conspicuously stalking you are fully exposed, and you are able, and everyone, and notably the feds, are able to identify stalking by police departments, by the government, that was never supposed to be exposed or identified, or let alone proven. Okay, so the Ontario police are stalking in plain sight in this video, and they're doing so while a demon is engaging in what is a method of light activity. And again, what is the identifying factors? The fact that my shadow is upright on the walls while the sun is over my head, and I also have a shadow that's on the ground. There is inexplicable light activity. That's speaking to the malice of everyone around you and the environment itself. Also, the sun is over the same location. It's over me and then moving as I move. I'm at the same location where I was at 8 o'clock in the morning, where this fake sun was rising. Okay, the entity is engaging in what is a pattern of conduct on its face. The police and the people of the state are shown to be engaged in domestic terrorism, and terrorism by any foreign enemy, terrorism by any homegrown enemy, shall be treated like the threat to national safety, to the American public, to the safety of this country, national safety concerns, public safety concerns, it's in other words, I'm getting to the fact that it's not distinct. It is equally a threat to American citizens. And these are obsessed psychopaths who never counted on the fact that their malicious system would be fully exposed. You have to be mindful of that. The way that their demented minds work and how they are showing their obsession, not only by virtue of engaging in the P.O.C. You're stalking. Stalking is born of obsession. People are obsessed with the target individual and they don't want that to be known. They're obsessed because they're demon possessed. They don't want that to be known. They're obsessed as you witness it because they keep gang stalking while the evidence is literally in plain sight for all of the world, and most importantly, as always, the feds to see. Now you can see in plain sight what was never supposed to be known. The fact that the police are obsessively stalking you is a threat to your life. And it's an impermissible threat while they do so in plain sight. And they did so on video while the demon, whose license plate I will recite in a second, but at 3 minutes and 35 seconds, I am reciting this on the video. He drives off. He drives into the parking lot, first of all. Amazon's engaged in surveillance. A truck full of Latino males are in an RGC company vehicle. They're just sitting in the vehicle under the fake sun, keeping me under surveillance. All right. You have a resident that's sitting in their black pickup truck or dark blue pickup truck engaged in surveillance. You have the demons in units 33 through 64 and some that are scattered from Woodside Senior Apartments, in other words, that are walking around. They're monitoring. They're monitoring while they're maintaining presence on the benches. They're walking on the sidewalks. They're sitting in their vehicles. They're monitoring what I'm typing on my phone. They're monitoring me while I'm laying on the couch and my eyes are closed. And as I fall into a subconscious state, about to fall asleep, the demon in Unit 55 is amplified booming, the source of amplified booming. Amazon Prime is engaged in psychological torture. I cannot make these things up. This is psychotic, while a population is keeping one person under surveillance. And they're demons. And like I stated in the video, I will repeat it again. Mr. Bezos, you need to understand that his demon-possessed workforce is speaking to what is his condition as well. He is biased to the demon-possessed. He is a demon-possessed actor. And he has a lot of money, exercises a lot of dangerous influence in this country, where he is facilitating and engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring in order to engage in and facilitate domestic terrorism and psychological torture in this country. And he is fully aware of the demon-possessed workforce, who I have documented very heavily for a term of years, molesting me with engineer light under the fake sun, engaging in gang stalking with the entity in helicopter, doing so as a means of very foolish, documented acts of retaliation as the demons monitor me, referencing their company by name. Another demon will immediately arrive, or within the course of the day, or even the next day, but nonetheless, the entity that is monitoring acts with ongoing concerted knowledge of everything that you state about it, and that's relevant to the ways those demons are going to be prosecuted. It's directly relevant, all right? But this is psychotic. While you have a bunch of people in the parking lot, men and women. And I'm being generous because I do not think that any grown man is that. You're not a man stalking a woman. You're certainly not a man stalking a woman you don't know. Not that there's any excuse to be stalking someone that you do know, but they're stalking me and they don't know me personally. And they are stalking as a matter of conclusive evidence, under a fake sun that remains over me as I stand in their presence, and it remains over me. And the state engages in ongoing corroborating evidence, incriminating them, proving that they are indeed stalking with that government. You're not doing anything but stalking under the fake sun. You're sitting in a truck, sweating, engaged in gang stalking in a commercial vehicle in the middle of the parking lot, Amazon and RGC. And the residents are sitting on the benches. They're walking around, they're meandering while engineer light is appearing in the shade, while the fake sun is hovering over the same apartment building in alignment to me, where I captured gang stalking by somebody whose name I know. It's very terrorizing for a blood relative to be a demon-possessed and obsessed stalker, practicing witchcraft, conspiring your murder, obsessively, continuously doing so, even as it monitors the evidence during an ongoing federal investigation. That's very terrorizing. That's exactly why defendants with that sort of criminal record sitting for their prosecution, they're going to mental asylums. And the evidence speaks for itself. The evidence speaks for itself. Now, the demon whose license plate, they're using their vehicle as a means of light activity in the parking lot. And at the video captured at approximately 3 minutes and 29 seconds, I'm facing the parking lot area. At approximately 3 minutes and 31 seconds, this demon begins reversing in the white pickup truck. At this point, I had already recited the license plate. I'm going to repeat it now because this third party is going to prison. They're going to federal prison. They're engaged in light activity and relevant positioning, not coincidentally, but it is in concert. And I want to be clear, I want to point this out to you because this is how you're understanding the connection that the demon-possessed have. They're not on the phone together talking about, okay, reverse now and I'm coming down the street. That's not what's happening. The Ontario police never cease from being around me in relevant position in the sky space and around the venue where the fake sun, which is how you know that the police are gang stalking me 24/7. Because the fake sun remains over me at Woodside Senior Apartments for the duration of the day. That's how you know what the police are doing. That's how you know that the mayor knows what the police are doing, and the mayor shall be held accountable, whether that demon wants to admit that he serves Satan, he or she serves Satan, or not, because Paul Leon is not the only exposed domestic terrorist leader in the state of California. He's not the only one. But the specific environment itself is directly telling to the malice of a corrupt entity that's not acting individually. It's acting together. And they don't have to get on the phone talking about, oh, I'm coming down the street right now, so go ahead and go and revert. That's not what's happening. You're dealing with what is one spirit. Satan is a spirit. Satan uses people. And so this is also how you have this in sync conduct amongst a population, amongst a group of people. And it's not a coincidence that it's in sync with my movement, that it's in sync with even what I say, in sync with what it is that I view online, that the demons are hostile to, that the demons are responding to, all right, that they're triggered by, okay, that they just generally don't like. Nonetheless, it's while they're spying on me, while they're engaged in federal stalking, period. You're going to be prosecuted for that, and your whole mental case while you do things like that. That you anticipated no one would ever know about. That level of malice is psychotic. That's mental illness exposed. Okay, and the fact that the entity continuously does so while there is an ongoing, and I mean ongoing federal investigation. Okay, the world is being introduced to what is exposing mental illness that a population sought to hide and misconstrue, confuse, okay, define in other manners that keeps the target away from them, and they are indeed the ones that are mentally ill, and their mental illness is a threat to the American public. All right, it's a public safety concern. It is a threat to national security. And that's not an exaggeration. This is domestic terrorism. And like I stated before, any foreign or domestic enemy that is gang stalking as some cult from outside, as based on what we've been told by our own government that's keeping us under surveillance, by the way, or an entity, the population in the country, in the state, that is a threat to national security, you will be treated like the threat that you are, the enemy to the Constitution, to American citizens that you are, period. This period. And the reason why I'm being emphatic is because the entity still lacks the ability, and I'm just judging based on the conduct, they lack the ability to appreciate how serious this is regarding their future and how they're going to be prosecuted and viewed under law once they are exposed and prosecuted. Terrorism has been treated very seriously when it's purportedly those that are from abroad. And it's not going to be treated differently because it is a matter of proven fact that the American government is engaging in terrorizing American citizens. It's going to be treated as seriously, if not more seriously, because the betrayal is by our own. And I put that in air quotes, by our own, because Americanism is, and being a part of the melting pot that we are in this country is not merely based on location, address, ecological location. Americanism is being an American is a mind state. It's a state of mind. And it is entirely un-American to engage in terrorism and terrorizing other American citizens. You are not an American. No, you're not. Even though you may have been born in this country, you are not at your core. You're the most unpatriotic, psychotic threat to national security. And that's exactly how you're going to be treated. You may have a constitutional right to your day in court, but you are viewed as and treated like the animal that you are, unworthy of the privilege it is to be in this country. And if you're a gang stalking immigrant, you can kiss your presence in this country goodbye. No military status, no service in the military. In other words, no duration of time, no business that you created, none of that is keeping you in this country. Terrorism is the line and you're out, period. All right, so I just want to be clear. Let me read this license plate. The people of the state are using the vehicle as a means of light activity, facilitating gang stalking by the police, which is a direct threat to my life, safety, and overall well-being. This is a police department that's engaged in a pattern of kidnapping, criminal defamation, sexual assault and battery, and the list goes on while they have been seeking to obstruct justice because they have been gang stalking. And the point at which I started documenting it, the entity engages in obstruction of justice in the same way that they engage in louder amplification, vibrating the couch because they're hostile because I'm documenting them, arriving in gang stalking in helicopter because they're hostile that I'm documenting them, vibrating the building while you're flying over in helicopter, hovering in commercial airline planes after I'm documenting the people of the state gang stalking on an ongoing basis. The entity engaged in obstruction of justice, heightening that threat, threatening my life because at any point the entity is kidnapping you, your life is at risk because they are controlling the narrative, murdering you, and then stating that they took your life, had to use lethal force for some other reason. It's on the news every single day. And you're going to prison for that unlawful threat to my life. All right? And so the entity is engaging in this conduct, and the entity that's using their brakes as a method of light activity in the path while documentation is underway. The reason why I stress these things is because the entity is going to appreciate the severity that federal law places when you are monitoring that is psychologically torturing an American citizen. So every method of light activity, everyone present in the path, while you stay inside of your house in the path, or while you come outside and boldly walk in front of the camera under the fake sun, like the demon in unit number 55. Okay? The unemployed domestic terrorist, gang stalking, day and night, not sleeping, not leaving the living room, and coming outside only because I'm outside. That's how obsessed she is, not only with my genitalia, but every word that I say, everything I'm looking at on the internet, and everything that I do at the moment that I do it. Doing so, not working for the Ontario Police Department, who don't even have any constitutional authority themselves as the department, nor to engage in federal group stalking and monitoring with unemployed demons like the people of the state at Woodside Senior Apartments. But you'll see that on video as well. She's going to a mental asylum. All right. And again, so at 3:32 p.m., the people of the state are reversing. And what you will see is the Ontario police in a black and white. They are driving south on Vine Avenue at 3:30, at approximately 3 minutes and 34 seconds. And you will see the concerted activity with regard to elements. These are demons that are monitoring, engaging in surveillance with regard to the maintenance of light activity, audible activity, which is accomplished through my voice, and relevant positioning. The police are crossing path. They're creating light activity. They're doing so in concert with the people of the state that are in the path in that white pickup truck, using the brake lights, reversing in the path, and creating engineer light, because you know what happens when demons drive in the engineer light. When anybody moves around in this engineered environment, the ongoing impossible occurrence of sunlight ricocheting off your car, I suppose, and moving across the sidewalk and all across the walls, they're monitoring with the police who are crossing path intentionally. And they don't have to be on the phone to have that perfectly timed conduct, which is the P.O.C. That's the P.O.C. The entity is engaging in what is monitoring on video, and it's been captured for years. And because this third party, because this police department continuously engages in this, what is very serious, terrorism in the state, domestic terrorism, they're both going to prison. Everything that the Ontario Police Department is going to be reporting, like I said, this is not, the hard part was capturing the pattern of conduct and putting it in a manner where it is palatable for anyone to be informed. Not that you would be in fear, but that you would be aware of the enemy's devices. This is demonic activity. This is Satan using people to slaughter other people, to slaughter children of God, by the way, those who know Christ Jesus. This is a system of persecution, but I'm in the United States, and I'm enforcing the legal, well, I am enforcing my rights, and it is providing precedent for other American citizens to enforce their constitutional rights, whether you're a Christian or not. But I would advise you, if you do not know Christ Jesus as your Lord and Savior, there is no better time. There is no better time than now, because Satan will continue to become more and more desperate, using your mother and father, your brother, everyone that you know to target you, to conspire against your life. That's something that you're not supposed to live to tell about. Something as big as the government going against you, controlling the narrative. I'm not supposed to be here to be able to tell you about it and testify to it, to what God has done. My Lord and Savior, Christ Jesus. Let me be very specific. Not supposed to be able to live and tell about that. And this is how desperate Satan is becoming. And it's going to grow. That means desperation by the enemy equals more deaths, equals more acts of violence, equals more egregious and unconstitutional behaviors by the government. That's what that equates to, if you want me to break that down. These are the times that we're in, and I'm not trying to spread fear. This is just the reality. If you know Christ, you don't have anything to fear. You don't have anything to fear. And with regard to your constitutional rights, you still have them, and you should be informed about your rights, and you should be informed of what the government is doing to you, and that you're ignorant about. You should very much be aware of that. It should outrage you. It's outrageous. All right, so that's a multifaceted goal. Okay. There's many goals that I have with regard to exposing this, but and prosecuting it, and also speaking to the truth of Lord God, Christ himself, who is sitting on the throne, and he is telling the secrets of those who walk in darkness. All right, and it fills the city of Ontario. And as I'm at Woodside Senior Apartments, the entire city of Ontario is being documented from the mayor down. Doesn't matter what corner, what boulevard, what avenue, what street, what court you live in the city. The city is gang stalking. All right. And all the businesses in the state are engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring. The city of Ontario is an example of that. The pattern of conduct being established is showing what the entire state is engaged in. Hence the establishment of the pattern of conduct of the state of California. I've done it in multiple cities and counties. All right, it is currently 2:18 p.m. I'm going to stop this video right now, but I just want to go through what you'll see at 3 minutes and 35 seconds or so. You'll see the concerted conduct of light activity and relevant positioning. The third party in the white pickup truck, he drives off. I'm on video. I walk past them. I don't really approach them. I walk past them because you don't have to. In the same way that they're just in plain sight engaging in surveillance, and you're not supposed to know anything about it. Okay, that's not the case anymore. And everyone can see clearly the fact that they're demons, and the fact that they're stalking. And they're conspiring. And why are they doing it? They're acting in furtherance of a conspiracy to murder and kidnap somebody. This is no small thing at all. This is terrorism, domestic terrorism, and psychological torture. So the entity is doing so in plain sight. And so all I'm doing is walking around and getting license plates of all those that were monitoring a woman in a private space, engaging in a perpetual sex offense. They're all sex offenders by company name. You will be prosecuted civilly and criminally for engaging in and facilitating sexual violence, because that's what you're doing. That's what you are. Literally. Hopping out of the vehicle and carrying a package is the elements of monitoring, and was doing so until the moment that I stepped out and started collecting license plates. It's very sick what the state practices. And only Satan can cause people, human beings, to stoop to that level of sickness. All right. Satan is not an excuse. Satan is providing context, but Satan is what they choose to abide by. And there are dire consequences, including a federal prosecution and public shame on a world stage, amongst other things. But yes, it starts with the fact that they serve Satan. They're demons. All right. It is the license plate where you'll see the Ontario police gang stalking in sync while they're sharing elements. Light activity, relevant positioning, audible activity are the elements underway while the police are on video gang stalking in a manner that I can see. They don't have to cross path in order to establish. The specific environment establishes that the police are gang stalking. Okay, you have to have evidence of it in order to establish it. However, I've already done that. However, they are crossing path, which is why anybody else that you document is immediately federal prison. Immediately. All right. And so this third party's license plate, who you'll see in the video, and I just wanted to provide that context. I documented this demon, and his license plate is gang stalking with the Ontario Police Department. His license plate is It is currently 2:21 p.m. The demon that you see crossing path in the parking lot in order to monitor me is inside of her apartment, and the ceiling is amplified with simultaneity to my resuming recording right now. The federal government is going to prosecute and is mindful of every show of malice, and this is a psychopath that knows what they're doing, not a mentally unstable person that is criminally insane and cannot appreciate the criminality of their conduct, cannot understand the illegality of it. This is a psychopath that derives pleasure, that is in every way mentally disturbed, and is in need of what is regular mental assistance in an asylum. And that's exactly where she's going. Again, her license 5WUV 715. She is stalking in perfect alignment with me, directly over me on the couch in the living room, where the fake son is also in perfect alignment with me in the living room, no longer over me in the parking lot at a farther location when I'm documenting Amazon Prime and RGC and all the demons sitting in the vehicles in the parking lot. The demon is stalking in the path, and she's also stalking with simultaneity to my activity on a communication device. That is the definition for what is federal stalking under Title 18, Section 22618, subsections 1 and 2. And the mental illness is also exhibited by the demon possessed who engage in the psychological torture tactic. While you who are not documenting, but while you observe it, while you express fright and fear of it, and being bothered and harassed and terrorized by it, the demon that is monitoring you and knows what you are communicating outwardly or thinking about, crying about, okay, exhibiting fright toward, will continuously engage in more of it, and that's what the demon is now doing. So I just want to make sure I document that. It's 2:22 p.m. and the demon begins and continuously sounds the sound of amplified ceiling cracking, and this demon is walking outside, and there's no potholes in the concrete, and nor is she the explanation for amplified sound of the ceiling, while the demon is pacing like a dog who does not have a job. Her job is to gang stalk me, and since she took that job with the state, she's going to be locked up in an asylum. She's not getting out, okay? She's doing so while evidence is being documented in real time, which is a serious crime also with regard to obstruction of justice, and also an impermissible threat that the state of California poses through the unemployed demon-possessed gang stalker in unit number 55, who was gang stalking under the fake sun at 8 o'clock in the morning, and is gang stalking under the fake sun that's over the same location at 2:23 in the afternoon. She's also a sex offender that's monitoring my genitalia, obsessed with my genitalia, and she shows the face of a sex offender while she's crossing path under that fake sun that you'll see hovering right over the roof in alignment to me. She's also stalking me in the path while she's in alignment to me right now in the apartment, monitoring my touching my phone at the same time. And the third party inside of this apartment is sharing in the criminal elements of monitoring, sharing in that mental illness that is exhibited, and sharing in the malice. Okay, and that third party is very heavily documented in this apartment right now, gang stalking with the state and with the people. All the demons in units 33 through 64 and the AVANATH employees are all going to prison, okay? Because this is what they're doing on an ongoing basis, and this is what the demon was doing while she was monitoring me while I'm sleeping. And then an amplified boom is what's heard, and then I go outside and I'm just getting all the license plates of all the demons that are engaging and obsessing over me, just sitting around, keeping me under surveillance, gang stalking, using their communication devices. That makes absolutely no sense. This is Satan that's having human beings act like animals for no legitimate purpose. The government is using the people of the state to engage in surveillance. And the police have no legitimate purpose in keeping me under surveillance. Their obsession is because they are demon-possessed, and their mental illness is manifested in their very disturbing behaviors, such as stalking somebody while you're in your apartment, stalking your own daughter while you're in your apartment, doing so while you're sitting around together, males and females, one person and I'm a female inside of an apartment. And you need to know that that is the formula of violent sex offenders. They also rape, they traffic, they molest, all right? They violate, they film, creating porn that you don't know is being created, that you haven't consented to. These are the sex offenders stalking in an apartment with no job, obsessively gang stalking me and stalking with my every minute movement. So let me be clear, because this is the sex offender that's gang stalking with no job. And her compensation is going to be confinement in an asylum, license 5WUV 715. Has no problem showing her face before the feds and before the world. And that's exactly what you need to know. That's why I'm stating it now. And that is going to be used against her and everyone else. Because this is mental illness, not of somebody that doesn't understand. This is somebody who is demon possessed, and their spiritual condition has manifested into very serious criminal activity. that provides no excuse for them because they know exactly what they're doing. They're so sick and so focused in their obsession, they are driving themselves to a point of never being released from prison, never being released from the asylum, never ever having the same life when they walk away with that criminal record for domestic terrorism. You are going to have a criminal record of a sex offender that can't just move into any apartment complex. You can't just go get any job. She doesn't work anyway, but she's going to have to. Because no sex offending, gang stalking, demon-possessed terrorist is going to have any sort of support from the state or federal government to support you paying your rent, especially while you're sitting at home engaging in terrorizing another person. No person like that is going to have any rent support. It's absurd. It's absolutely absurd. And this is why, how, by the way, the corrupt state of California is financing domestic terrorism amongst the population. While they claim they can't go to work, but they're sitting at home gang stalking people all day long. And even while they are at work, like speaker companies, for example, and AVANATH Capital Management, they're gang stalking at the workplace. Both examples of those who are going to federal prison, by the way. Intolerable facilitation. But things such as unemployment, draining, another means of draining the economy, there's a resolution right there. Okay, removing the corrupt government officials and removing the ability to receive things such as rent assistance, where the entity is doing it's financing and assisting domestic terrorism in the state, in the city. And the entire city is engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring. So they're currently receiving money, receiving funds while they're acting with the state, engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring. All of these demons that are over the age of 55 are unemployed while they're gang stalking, sitting in the parking lot, having no job, engaged in Title 18 federal stalking with the state, having the energy to do that, but not the energy to get up and go work in order to pay your rent, like a productive American citizen in the United States, not having the time to target somebody else would be doing. All right, so there's a lot of things as a matter of policy that can serve to correct the embedded corruption in the city of Ontario and in the state of California. It is currently, so I just want to go, that's not a tangent, that's feeding into why the third party that whose license plate I'm going to document right now, that's why they're going to federal prison. All right, they're acting together. This is the system that they're engaging in while they're in a parking lot, obsessively stalking a woman, and doing so in the most mentally disturbing manner, exhibiting malice and instability while they are in that specific environment, and where the fake sun itself is showing what the reality of what they're all doing, and they're all stalking. All of them. And that's very sick while a population stalks. It's very sick while an individual stalks. But it's very sick while a population of, it makes no sense with regard to the obsession by the population of the people of the state and the state that are stalking one person. And even the ways in which they do so. The amplified sound of a ceiling cracking, that's supposed to be the means whereby it's supposed to just occur naturally. Oh, there's nothing here to see, nothing weird going on here. The ceiling just sounds at every time I make a move while someone is supposedly under the guise of just walking around. It's not persuasive, it's not normal. And even absent the specific environment, this is just breaking down the lunacy, okay, and the unintelligent system and those that are engaging in that system. And then the demons are triggered because they hear me describe unapologetically their own system. This was the formula whereby they were going to murder me, and I was never going to be able to speak of it. However, the entity does this successfully to millions of people. This is what's going on in this country, and it's a matter of domestic terrorism. This is how American citizens are subject to what is a system of silence. They're being silenced and they're suffering in silence because nobody knows anything about a demonic system. You're looking at it and you don't even know what you're looking at. And the demons thought that they had hit a stroke of genius, and they're not. I'm showing you, actually, they look like fools. They look like baboons. They look like mental cases. And that's exactly what I want you to see, because that's what they are, showing you in plain sight. Psychopaths who need to be treated like the threat to national security, like the threat to children and every other vulnerable aspect of of American society that they are, including the elderly, covered in liver spots, walking around on canes and walkers, with swollen ankles and high blood pressure and diabetes, gang stalking, in furtherance of a conspiracy to murder and kidnap, with gang members calling themselves the police department. The elderly over 55 can't pay their rent, engaged in domestic terrorism. That's exactly what is speaking to the system of federal group stalking and monitoring in California. And it's embarrassing. It's shameful. And it's entirely un-American. It's the most unpatriotic thing that you can do. All right. And it is not the picture of anybody that, especially immigrants, you're not staying in this country. You don't have a right to be here. It's a privilege. And you have forfeited by being in the city of Ontario as a resident, as an employee. You're out of this country. All right. The third party that is gang stalking with this demon in unit number 55, their criminal engagement in the pattern of conduct does not stop because I'm not capturing video. It doesn't stop because they drove out of the parking lot. The entity continuously engages in a pattern of conduct as a population, and their impunity is imputed to all of them. And this third party is gang stalking with the Ontario police, engaged in the same psychological torture, and doing so on behalf of the same corrupt gang members, Ontario police. And that's the license plate again. I'm going back to the demon that's in the parking lot, going in reverse, stalking in the path as a means of facilitating the police stalking, and doing so monitoring. Remember the significance of being in the specific environment, the engineer light, movement around in the engineer light, noise in the engineer light. This is why you're using the ceiling and the walls cracking while engineer light covers the ceiling. That's not sunlight. My shadow appearing on the ceiling inside of the apartment, that's not sunlight. The shadow of the patio furniture on the patio glass door, that's not sunlight. The sun is not going to sit over one apartment building for 8+ hours in the day. That's not sunlight. That's not the sun. That's the significance of a demon that's stalking over where this demon knows where I'm at in the living room, never going to sleep, never abandoning position, and stalking at the drop of a dime with regard to everything that I do, including on a communication device. Now, this entity is acting through third-party license plate who's in the parking lot, engaged in the exact same P.O.C., and they're going to prison for it, for gang stalking with the Ontario Police Department. And their license plate again is 8G64758. They share in the ongoing impunity that I document while I remain inside of this apartment. This demon that engages in psychological torture, as I document amplified boom and I resume typing, the demon repeats it over and over again. That's psychological torture 101. All right. And the demon does it for hours at a time, 2 hours at a time, 25 minutes at a time, depending on however long I'm documenting. That demon will continuously. Okay, that's a high level of energy of an elderly citizen who's perfectly capable of getting up and getting a job. But that's not what's going on at Woodside Senior Apartments. And the reason why is because the Lord has provided an ability to provide some built-in resolutions to the so-called economy issues in this country that Gavin hasn't, in the state that Gavin hasn't been able to resolve. Perhaps because of the great amount of cost built into federal group stalking and monitoring. 24-hour surveillance, using helicopters and airplanes. The airport's not an actual the airport has a whole terrorist division where the demons are at the drop of a dime crossing path under a fake sun. With every move I make, depending on what I say as I say it, they're always present in the path, meaning you were already there. You're heavily stalking, and you're a whole psychopath doing that. Millions and millions of dollars wasted, not on preparing for statewide emergencies like fires, where they could be spending money on training, but these demons are stalking. And my evidence exposes that. This is what they've been spending millions and billions, you're talking about years, billions of dollars on. Not training the fire departments, not training the police departments to handle these, the sheriff's department to handle these issues, but engaged in criminal surveillance. That's actually what the state of California is the business regarding. It's a business of criminal surveillance, masquerading, okay, as a state government, commissioned and authorized under the state and federal constitutions. It's a whole malicious ruse, and it's very unfortunate. That does not make the Constitution illegitimate, however. It doesn't, and it calls for a lot of built-in resolutions where this so-called problems with the economy, a lot you will find will be solved when federal group stalking and monitoring isn't being financed through the criminal conduct of the police departments and the sheriff's departments, who go out of their way to follow me day and night in helicopters. That's a lot of money in and of itself. And all of the functions. To use the commercial planes, it's not just money that they use when they're flying, okay? The people that they're paying under the guise of having a legitimate job, whose job it is to keep the airplanes gassed up. It's a whole process for them to take off. And they're doing this over and over and over and over and over again. They're doing the same thing with the heliport and reporting on paper, oh, we were patrolling this area and we had an emergency over here and we were flying. Those demons are stalking. They're psychopaths. That costs a lot of money, though. And that's just surface level, okay? Not even piercing beneath the surface regarding all the millions and billions of dollars that the state of California wastes, that the governor and every mayor knows all about while they're practicing this targeting system in the state, financing it through the unemployed demons who are over 55, by the way. This isn't even the younger generations who are fully capable of working as well, who are gang stalking, being paid to do so, because that's what you're doing in the specific environment, and you're not going to work. You're being paid to engage in domestic terrorism. And that takes a lot of money from the economy. Okay, so there's a lot of built-in resolutions. And where the entities engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring, like the state of California, you have what is being more obtuse, if you will, regarding benefits such as rent assistance, when the company, the property, the entity itself is a documented terrorist. All right, you're not automatically qualified for such programs to aid terrorists in this country. And these are just the ways in which you disincentivize domestic terrorism in this country. All right. And that's just, again, there are a lot of other policies, other ideas, but many of the policies where I have sought to enforce the rights of an American citizen that is subject to the pattern of conduct in federal legislation that I propose with regard to advocacy on behalf of the, I represent the little guy that is suffering in silence, who doesn't have the ability to prove what the state is doing to them and why the state is doing it to them, because the state would like to call, oh, you're nobody, you're nothing, but the whole state is stalking me. Okay, Satan is a liar. I am literally the center of their whole circus environment. Every move I make. Okay, and this is the reality when you're under surveillance. And everyone who's listening in the United States, I'm only talking about the United States, because obviously Satan is not just limited to this territorial jurisdiction. The specific environment is not limited to the territorial jurisdiction of the U.S. Okay, so there are implications, there are things that you can learn spiritually and practically when those that are listening outside of the United States. However, with regard to what God has called me to do, which is prosecute the state of California, I'm going to keep my analysis and keep what it is that I speak on limited to that. But there's plenty that you can learn and you can deduce from it. Now, in the United States, in the state of California, the entity is engaging in a pattern of conduct whereby the entity is maintaining the elements of monitoring with an ongoing purpose to silence the ordinary target individual. The ordinary target individual, and does so with malice. And so where you're engaging in this pattern of conduct, the entity is doing so in a manner that's not limited to just the state of California. It's not limited to just the U.S., in other words. And so based on what it is that I'm doing as an American citizen, under my rights, under the Constitution, that's where I'm going to limit my discussion, only because of that. So I'm not going to go outside of the bounds, not to say that it's not there, but I'm just not going to go outside of the bounds until, the Lord tells me that I should, outside of that, then I'm going to leave it to that. This is serving for a criminal prosecution of the government, exposing public corruption, because clearly the government has been murdering American citizens and kidnapping them. And there are many that are sitting around kidnapped right now in facilities in this country and in this state. All right. And it's a tragic injustice that has to be addressed. It has to be rectified. And with regard to systematic infliction of inhumane suffering, SIIS, that is federal legislation that I propose with regard to advocating on behalf of the ordinary target individual, okay, who is suffering while they are being targeted by the state. And the whole purpose of the entity that is the public entity that is targeting an American citizen is to do so in a way in which the target individual is supposed to be falsely depicted as though they're imagining it, nothing's happening. They're making it up in their mind. They are the ones actually stalking other people. I've heard that. They are the ones that are the sex offender. And you're talking about what is the malice of the entity. And this is literally what Satan does. Okay, Satan is a liar. He's the father of lies, and he is the one that is behind the entity that is demon-possessed, that seeks to maliciously target and defame the target individual with titles, names, labels that belong to the entity. The entity is a stalker. The entity is mentally ill. The entity is literally a sex offender. And that's going to be appreciated under federal law as well. All of this is recognized under, again, SIIS, Systematic Infliction of Inhumane Suffering, federal legislation that I advocate, I propose, with regard to exposing all of the tactics employed by a public entity that is targeting American citizens. It is domestic terrorism, okay? And it's a device that is perfectly capable of being used, and any ideas therein in order to enforce American citizens' rights who are subject to the system of federal group stalking and monitoring. And then there's just the policies that I advocate, such as this is very clear cut. If you are engaged in domestic terrorism in this country and you have been granted a privilege to be here, that is the basis where you will be subject to deportation. And there is no saving grace, meaning there is no basis or status whereby your engagement in domestic terrorism is going to save you and keep you in this country. All right, and that's just one of the ideas that, with regard to the built-in problems regarding the economy, regarding the economy of the entity that is engaged in this system. Yeah, they will have economical issues because there's millions and billions of dollars that's being wasted on criminal surveillance, and that's the part that's not being identified on the books. All right, so it's a lot of money that's unaccounted for. It's unaccounted for, and it's also given other names. It's called some sort of program, some sort of initiative, and it's criminal surveillance. It's accomplishing criminal surveillance, and they're not telling you everything that they're doing. So I'm going to digress there. With regard to the entity that is engaged in the pattern of conduct, again, the third party that's acting with the Ontario Police is license, again, 8G64758. I did document the people of the state gang stalking in the parking lot as I'm subject to psychological torture inside of the apartment while I am, and all of the entity is obsessed with me sleeping, okay? All I'm doing is going to sleep, and it is of great interest to the state, of great interest. Okay, they're sitting in the parking lot engaged in surveillance. The license plate, again, that I stated, Amazon Prime is gang stalking under license 07121R3, and this is a Latino male. His name is Marco. He is engaged in surveillance, and then he is monitoring me while he then crosses path, creates light activity, and criminally facilitates it in concert with the Ontario Police, by the way, and the people of the state at Woodside Senior Apartments. The people of the state that are monitoring license plate surveillance sitting in their vehicle. This is license plate. 1 second. I'm going through. All right, the license plate. Apologies, I'm navigating on the phone at the same time. License 6A as in Apple 42707. This is a third party in the blue pickup truck, just stalking in the path. In the parking lot, very easy for the entity to engage in gang stalking while the fake son sits there idle over you all day long, and the demons are just pacing, patrolling around, and engaged in a system of psychological torture, just ongoing booms and booms while I'm at this point trying to sleep inside of the apartment. And so I documented all those that are engaging in surveillance, very psychotic, very disturbed behavior in the parking lot. Again, 6A42707. And the other third parties, it is, 1 second, let me get this other license plate. All right, it is RGS Landscape Maintenance. That's Robert, George, Sam. RGS Landscape Maintenance. They are engaged in surveillance. The California number on the side of this vehicle is CA, as in California, 479192. This is all going to be uploaded to the Google Drive. And so in order to see it, I'm going to include it on the podcast right now. That's what I'm doing. And in the images, you can see engineer light beside the vehicle on the passenger side. This is where shade would be. Engineer light is ricocheting off of the window. It's appearing underneath the vehicle. You have a vehicle full of males that are keeping a woman under surveillance. This is egregious sexual violence, mental illness, inexplicable obsession and criminal conduct surrounding one person on behalf of the state. The license plate for the RGS vehicle that is a means of stalking in the path. Their license plate is, let me get that. If I have it. 09313F as in Frank 1. Again, that's 09313F1. All right, and these are images and video that will be uploaded to the Google Drive. It is currently 2:46 p.m. This is just additional discussion. I remain subject to domestic terrorism and psychological torture, which are large umbrella terms regarding federal group stalking and monitoring a criminal surveillance system. Every move that I make, everything that when you're being monitored, it's your thoughts, it's your physical movement, it's also your private and personal activity in a private space. That's the sexual violence by an entity, males and females, over and under majority as well. Okay, while I am doing any and everything, even including sleeping, and the entity is engaged in an ongoing, as I have defined it, an unabated program of psychological torture that is stalking with noise, stalking with light. The demons pace on the sidewalk while their shadow moves across the patio door, while they're monitoring what I'm doing on the internet, while the demon is upstairs in 55, pacing back and forth like a dog. Because as I begin documenting the fact that she's stalking with activity as I touch my laptop, and then the demon begins and continuously is pacing as I continue documenting it. That can last for however long I start typing, 20 minutes or 2 hours, whatever it is that I document. And very often I continue documenting because I am documenting psychological torture that AVANATH Capital Management is going to compensate for, that the state of California is going to be liable for. You're going to prison for psychological torture. You're going to a mental asylum for psychological torture committed as an entity, not just this lapdog in unit number 55. Okay, it is currently 2:48 p.m. on Monday, January 13th, 2025, and this is P.O.C. All right, ongoing psychological torture. This is the Caucasian female with her hair in a ponytail. She is wearing gray tights and a black t-shirt, and she's exiting her apartment in order to engage in psychological torture and gang stalking very foolishly on video. She's going to be permanently secured in an asylum, but I want to document psychological torture right now. The fake sun is in perfect alignment with the living room window, which is a scientific impossibility. It's the identification of targeting as you observe the environment. And the demon sounds as though she's body slamming herself as I take a picture of the fake sun through the closed blinds in the living room. And this is the same living room where the fake sun is present at 8:30 in the morning. And at 2:53 p.m., Tracy Banks, this is a demon gang stalking with her and all the rest of the people of the state. And as she exits the apartment right now, impossible light cycles through the apartment and radiates. Okay, this is again, she's got a brown wooden front door. I've heavily documented there's no sunlight that's like reflecting off of the brown paint. It's not going to shoot through the peephole onto the kitchen wall and then move like a laser onto the bookcase. It's not going to move across the wall as you open and close the front door. None of this has anything to do with the placement of the fake sun. Also, as I've shown you, the absence of the fake sun and no engineer light touching the door, and still the concentrated light is coming through the peephole. This is a demon. This is a witch that's walking through the living room, opening the front door, and in creating this light activity as she walks out. It is the practice of witchcraft. These are the demon possessed who are engaging in what is light activity, and this is again speaking to the supernatural conduct. It's also supernatural, by the way, while the sound of the ceiling cracking and as though your body slamming yourself, that's also supernatural. It's not the product of this demon who you see on video walking around in the apartment. And this is also great mental instability, while the demon that is on this Caucasian woman is inspiring her what would be when you're observing a person and you cannot see the demons that are invisible in animating the person. This demon is very hostile and is engaging in what is very berserk conduct. And so it sounds as though she's body slamming herself. And as I captured the fake sun through the living room window where I showed you the fake sun at in the morning. This is the same location, same apartment. That's not the sun. And it's also in a position mutually exclusive to where it is while I'm capturing RGS in the parking lot, and I'm capturing Amazon Prime in the parking lot, and I'm capturing the Ontario International Airport gang stalking through a commercial plane, speaking to what all of the airlines and the city of Ontario are engaging in. There's no sun that's in alignment with the blinds, coming through the closed blinds, perfectly aimed through the blind slats, causing sunlight to appear on the couch in the same way that it is 2 hours from now after 4 p.m. And the demon that is causing this person that's going to a mental asylum, she is increasingly engaged in berserk conduct, such as throwing her body like she's doing the Running Man. And of course, she's doing it directly above me, and she does it with simultaneity to my capturing this fake sun. The direct evidence that's putting her into prison or an asylum, she's going to an asylum because of the mental illness that that is exhibited through her very disturbing and threatening conduct that the state is engaged in with her and is monitoring me by. That's why she's going to an asylum. And so is Tracy Banks. The light activity while you're walking by, none of this is normal light activity. It is means of psychological torture. It is exhibiting mental illness by very severely mentally unstable and psychopathic, malicious psychopaths who are exhibiting hostility through that light activity, through that amplified audible activity, and both of which are supernatural. Okay, so 2:52 p.m. you'll see an image, and it's showing the fake sun, and that is the evidence in and of itself. But I'm going to give more and more evidence as I capture that. The demon that is monitoring. I'm also monitoring my genitalia while my legs are spread open, while I'm nude in the bathroom. This demon is also stalking my presence in that location as well. She's obsessed with my genitalia and what's between my legs. So is the Ontario Police. So is the entire population of the city of Ontario. So is the Amazon Prime employees sitting in a parking lot, sitting in vehicles, RGS, a car full of men, who are, again, engaged in a perpetual sex offense together. And this is what a corrupt entity does. They practice sex acts against the knowledge and consent of an American citizen. They are doing so. I want to be clear. It is analogous to engaging in sexual contact with somebody that has clearly stated, I don't want to have any sexual contact with you, and yet the entity is still monitoring my genitalia in the bathroom, monitoring me inside of a private space, and exhibiting severe mental illness, such as throwing your body on the ground at the same time that as you're monitoring my phone. And I capture the direct evidence of it because the fake sun is seen through the closed blind slats in Tracy Banks' living room. All right, and facilitating conduct is Tracy Banks walking out of the apartment, monitoring and doing so. This is what I want to document. This is the evidence, the ongoing capture of what is psychological torture. Those that are on video, they're over 55, they're all going to prison. All right, and so you're not going to be, like I stated, the demons that are over 55 with all manner of health concerns, them and their health concerns are going to federal prison. All right, and the government that's gang stalking with them is going to be prosecuted as well. And all the ways in which the state has acted directly in concert with the demons, mentally ill with all manner of health ailments, it's not going to help them at prosecution. It is informing the world regarding who Satan uses. And there are no racial restrictions. There's no age restrictions, contrary to what Satan wants you to do. Satan wants you to discriminate on the basis of race, based on what you see, based on where they live, based on what they drive. It's all a manner of deception. Okay? Because people making over 200, 300,000 a year are monitoring my genitalia. They're obsessed with me. They're gang stalking me. They're keeping me under surveillance, and they're very interested in everything that I say and do. Those that don't even have a job, like the demon in unit number 55, and the population living at Woodside Senior Apartments over the age of 55, probably have minor children, like grandchildren, who they're going to wish that they could legally be around, but they're going to be rendered the threat that they are to children and others that are vulnerable aspects of the population. While she's exhibiting this, it's going to be used against her. And that's going to be the same treatment with every other domestic terrorist that is acting in furtherance. Remember, it's all in furtherance of murder and kidnapping. And the domestic terrorists are monitoring evidence. And so these are terrorists that are determined to accomplish murder and kidnapping while they are aware of the fact that it is not a surprise attack. You're terrorizing somebody that's aware of it, is documenting it, and is in every regard clearly stating, I'm not interested in you're making my body, my anatomy, my genitalia the center of your sexual focus. As an entity, I'm also not interested in you keeping me under surveillance in a private space. I also have a right to not be subject to your mental illness while you focus on me and are literally driven more and more berserk and aggressive in your psychotic behavioral patterns because you're stalking me. All right. All of that is relevant to the ways in which the state of California, the city of Ontario, is going to be prosecuted. And this demon that's engaging in what is walking upright, I want you to make sure you pay attention. It's the demon in gray tights. She's wearing a blonde. She clearly uses peroxide. She's like has it back in a ponytail and wears a black t-shirt. This is the demon that is throwing her body about. At least that's the audible activity that's sounding. And that's at the same time I'm capturing what is a fake sun necessarily, because the sun that would be at 6:01 p.m. in Florida, going down at this point in the day, starting to go down, as in set, never arrived in Florida based on my evidence of what is stationary presence at the same exact apartment. Through Tracy Banks's living room window, through the blinds that are closed. And it's so concentrated, it's so precise that lines of light are appearing on the couch because the demons that are throwing their bodies around and stalking directly above me in the living room, not moving from where I'm located, and stalking in the path through demonic means of all manner of amplified noise under a fake sun, a circus environment, an engineered light that's shooting through windows and peepholes in the door and sweeping across the ceiling and cycling through the apartment as you open the door. There is no sun that ever arrived in any other city, location, or state. And also, it is as supernatural as the audible activity that's created. This is psychological torture, and the entity is subject to federal prison and confinement and mental asylums. And this is the classic example of exactly what it is that I'm documenting on an ongoing basis. The demon engages in the same throwing her body about. This is a demon that's on a person, however. So understand it's the demon that's animating this person. This is an inability to control your impulses. This is an inability to control oneself while inflicting harm on another. In furtherance of a criminal conspiracy to murder and kidnap, this is mental illness that you will be criminally responsible for. Okay? So doing so on behalf of the state. The state is acting. This is state action that is vicariously accomplished through a population of mentally ill demons, stalkers. Okay, that's what's throwing themselves around while the demon is very hostile and more aggressive and animated in their activity creation as I capture more and more evidence. That's very demented. And that's the pattern of conduct by the demon possessed, by the way. The entity is doing so again. Tracy Banks, the only reason why she's walking out of the apartment is because she's monitoring and doing so. All right. This is what she was doing this morning with this demon under the fake sun. And by a fake sun, I mean you will see it at 8 o'clock in the morning over the same exact apartment building when I'm capturing Amazon Prime. The demon's engaged in surveillance, Ontario police. It's over the same apartment building, and it moves backwards. I mean, it moves backwards in the direction east in order to be in alignment with my person as I'm sitting on the couch in the living room, and I aim my phone up and I can capture that fake sun through my lens. And the demon above is stomping and throwing their body about, monitoring and also communicating a threat to the physical safety, life, well-being, and liberty. Because the mentally ill police departments that are monitoring with the demon possessed, that are the people of the state, they engage in things such as criminal summoning and things such as literally kidnapping an American citizen. And the entity engages in all manner of criminal acts that you should not put beyond corrupt police departments. The very people responsible for things such as so-called missing persons, amongst when you are living in a bubble and where everyone in relevant position is engaged in that criminal system together and is all alleging that the target individual has disappeared and no one has seen them, fully capable of being kidnapped by the police that raid, meaning kidnap you, come into where you're at or wherever you're located, but meaning at any point my safety remains threatened while the gang stalker that lives here and the gang stalkers that surround here exhibit mental illness and an ongoing thirst and desire to to kidnap and then just claim that I disappeared somewhere. That's fully within the fact pattern, within the what is capable of plausible, in other words, for the demon-possessed corrupt entity to engage in. And by the way, you look at things such as this, where you are not aware of the fact that it's the police that have murdered someone, that it's the police that kidnapped someone and took their life, that it's the police that know about the people of the state who kidnapped someone, murdered them as a part of their satanic ritual, and the police are claiming that it's a missing case, that it's an open case. Okay, this is exactly what the entity engaged in, and this is the demon. This is the entity that's throwing their body around, engaging in the very serious federal offenses of under the umbrella of domestic terrorism, psychological torture on behalf and in concert with the state, and doing so in concert with the people of the state. AVANATH Capital Management is going to pay damages under federal law for that which has never been contemplated. They're going to be paying damages for psychological torture that they are engaged in with the state, while AVANATH is a gang stalking company. They're corrupt. They're also criminally profiting. All right, they're profiting while their customers, their residents, like the demon that lives in Unit 51, Tracy Banks, like the demon that lives, all the demons you saw on the property, the fake son is over. AVANATH is gang stalking with the fake son over the property. AVANATH is gang stalking with the police who drive on the property in relevant position to the property, where federal group stalking and monitoring is capable of existing and underway and facilitated. AVANATH Capital Management is gang stalking while the residents on the grounds and the employees are engaging in what it is that I continuously document. AVANATH Capital Management is gang stalking while engineer light remains inside of the apartment, and I'm subject to sexual violence that AVANATH Capital Management is profiting from. While their demons are on the job during 8 to 5, I'm subject to a sex offense. Yes, AVANATH Capital Management is going to compensate me for that. And everybody coming onto the ground, such as RGS and Amazon Prime, are gang stalking with AVANATH Capital Management, with the entity that's gang stalking in planes and helicopters over the property of Woodside Senior Apartments. That AVANATH Capital Management, all right, is the property owner. The venue is attributed to this corporate name, AVANATH Capital Management LLC, headquartered in Irvine, California. Okay, everything that I've documented for years, by the way, the ongoing domestic terrorism with the police, who add to damages and time in federal prison for the employees, for the demons that are gang stalking, throwing their bodies around while paying rent to AVANATH Capital Management, and then doing more of it as you document it. All of this is relevant to the damages that are designed to devastate. No company is welcome and has any, you don't have a constitutional right to facilitate and maliciously misuse your company to facilitate domestic terrorism in this country. And damages that are awarded, they're designed to devastate that gang stalking company if it survives prosecution civilly and criminally. All right, then it's certainly not going to survive the damage, the irreparable damage to the reputation. Okay, the entity is doing so on an ongoing basis and is doing so with impunity. All right, it is currently 3:08 p.m. and the images of that fake sun that you'll see through the closed blind slats is the same fake sun where the same city of Ontario is gang stalking through the demons that empty the garbage on a systematic basis, which is a federal prison. For the entity who's going to produce the names of the demons that are emptying the garbage, who act with impunity, amplifying the sound of dumpster trucks. You're going from emptying the dumpster to federal prison. It's as simple as that. The entity is acting systematically. Remember, that's the basis of federal prison. Systematically, meaning you're coming gang stalking by landscaping at the property every single week. You're living at the property, engaging in what is systematic psychological torture, while the entity sounds the ongoing amplified boom at 3:08 because they don't like the fact that you're going to prison for emptying the garbage at the facilitating venue while you're gang stalking, and you're mad that you got caught doing that. Okay, everybody in units 33 through 64 is going to federal prison for that. Everybody, units 33 through 64, and they're going to federal prison however long that these aged third parties have left. All right, and they're not going to be treated any differently. They're not going to be given any mercy with regard to lighter sentences, and my evidence supports that. The psychological torture tactics increase. All right, the malice of the entity is exhibited. The entity acts directly as you document these aged demons who are fully engaged in equally life-threatening conduct, and do so with the ongoing purpose of psychologically harming and doing so in furtherance of the intent to murder and kidnap. AVANATH Capital Management All demons in the units, all 144, all of the demons inside of the 144 units are being prosecuted. And the demons in units 33 through 64 and everyone else, like the license plates that you heard, who may live outside of the units 33 through 64, they're all going to prison. Period. The demon in number 55, she's going to an asylum. And the entity, this is how you, this is not rocket science. Like in any case where the entity is engaging in, or the actor, the defendant is engaging in criminal conduct that's bringing into the controversy the mind state that is necessarily disturbed, any judge is going to look at, oh, this defendant is disturbed. Well, we need to make sure that they get the attention, the medical attention that they need while they serve the time for the crime that they've committed, because they remain criminally responsible. And so while you exhibit the fact that you are mentally unstable, engaging in methods of psychological torture by working for the municipality, it is no mystery that Paul Leon is fired. He's a demon, by the way. Okay, you're not remaining as the mayor. You're not remaining outside of a mental asylum, gang stalking, throwing your body around, living under a fake sun, stalking with all manner of light activity, not leaving from my physical position, stalking and monitoring as my genitalia is exposed in the bathroom, and that excites you, and you're hostile as I tell about your sexual perversion. You're focused on my genitalia. Yeah, you're going to an asylum. Absolutely. And so is the police department that's gang stalking with you in helicopter. So is the demons gang stalking in commercial planes with you because they're hostile, because you're being documented. What is it that I'm describing? I'm describing the ongoing chaotic system of federal group stalking and monitoring. And the untrained eye is looking at what's supposed to appear as just ordinary traffic of the airplane. And because there's an airport in the city, that's supposed to explain, oh, planes are going to fly everywhere because there's an airport in the city. And that's not even true either. And it's certainly not at all manner of elevations hovering over the apartment building, regardless of the fake sun that's targeting on its face. But like I said, this is an entity that was never prepared for prosecution, for exposure, for literally a detailed tutorial and analysis of understanding what demons do and how they do it, especially when they're engaged in the organized system of gang stalking. Okay, again, 3:08 p.m. the city of Ontario, the demon that is arriving, documented him at least on more than one occasion, the Latino male, gang stalking under the fake sun at 7:30 in the morning, gang stalking under the fake sun at 12 o'clock in the afternoon. It's 3:08. The entity will arrive at any moment at the drop of a dime to engage in any method of audible activity. And that includes coming to empty the garbage if I'm documenting at 8 o'clock in the morning, or if I'm documenting at 4:12 in the afternoon. They're doing so facilitating the P.O.C. And emptying the garbage just like universal waste under the fake sun with LAPD. Systematic facilitation. Prison. Period. Prison. There is a response for everything that the entity engages in. And as I show the barbarians that they are engaging in more of it, this is their mental illness, though. And understand that this is Satan that is furious because Satan's disguise has been exposed. So understand that Satan, who uses people, threatens an American citizen, while these demon-possessed people exhibit ongoing hostility together, collectively, around one person that doesn't have anyone to report it to, that doesn't have evidence to prove it, that is suffering in silence. That's why the entire property, Woodside Senior, AVANATH Capital Management, the City of Ontario, the police, the fire department, the county sheriff's department, the municipality itself, all the offices of government in Ontario, the mayor and everyone under his leadership. You're talking about the city airport. You're talking about Woodside Senior apartments themselves. And the population inside. You're talking about a prosecution of a city. And by the way, I have fully exposed more than one city in California and more than one county. What is remaining over Costa Mesa Police Department, what's remaining over the Best Western in Costa Mesa on Newport Boulevard, during daylight savings time or outside of daylight savings time, is never going to be reconciled with the fake sun that the Ontario Police Department are gang stalking me under, and the Ontario Police Department decide to do so with knowledge of the fact that I'm enforcing my constitutional rights and documenting it. And that's why Mike Lorenz is not only going to be removed as a domestic terrorist leader, but he is done with law enforcement, and he will not go anywhere in the United States ever having anything to do with law enforcement. And also the police that are engaged in gang member conduct, such as group stalking, they're going to be prosecuted. They're literally producing the names of all those at the heliport, flying around. They can make their own decisions regarding whoever's name, because you're going to produce the names, because you're all going to prison. And based on what I was documenting, because I'm very detailed, the demon was throwing her body on the ground above me, was pacing like a dog for 2 hours as the Ontario police chime in with amplified helicopter activity, began flying in circles. That demon flying that helicopter is likely to wind up in an asylum as opposed to a prison. It's based on the facts as I document them. And I'm not the only one investigating and documenting the state. They have done this to themselves, and every state actor is subject to prison. I want to be clear. State actors, the government itself, you're not just getting a criminal record like the people of the state who I document as a matter of being in the city. You're getting a criminal record. You're a domestic terrorist. However, you may not have been documented by myself gang stalking with the police. Okay, so you avoid federal prison, but the state's not avoiding federal prison. State actors, gang stalking, like I believe this demon was Paul. Oh, no, excuse me, that's the mayor. The city of Ontario arrived under the fake sun at 9 o'clock in the morning. African-American male with Tracy Banks under the fake sun, and I documented this, and it's on the website. It's also on the YouTube channel, but the website is thisisthepoc.wordpress.com, and the YouTube channel is the P.O.C, where you will see the wealth of evidence. The recognizing the pattern is the playlist where you will see the evidence of a fake sun sitting stationary over the apartment building from the beginning to the end of the day, from 7:18 until after 6 p.m. This is where the demons are throwing their bodies around, stalking by Amazon Prime, stalking by the demon-possessed landscaping, stalking by the airport, stalking by the dumpsters, and engaging in what is showing more of their mental illness, while the ongoing psychological tactics are employed, ongoing booms and stomping heard inside of the apartment, which AVANATH Capital Management is going to write a check for. Their company is going to be deconstructed as they lose their reputation and as they lose money that they're going to fork over based on the devastating level of damages. They're designed to devastate you. The damages are designed to take all of your money, period. All of it. Because domestic terrorism is not welcome in this country. And it's to disincentivize this very conduct. Okay, so the demon is throwing their body around, stomping. This is amplified audible activity, the elements of monitoring, and furtherance of murder and kidnapping. That's why an entity is psychologically torturing someone. And this is what the police is doing while the demon in Unit 55 is doing it. And this is what the entity, again, based on the facts as I identify them, is going to determine. There's no ambiguity. The entity is going to stand before federal court, stand before federal judges, and you're going to be subject to prison or an asylum based on the facts as they are determined. Prison is the default, though. You're not avoiding prison for being a state actor engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring. You're going to prison. All right, so I just want to make sure I capture that. The fake sun is remaining stationary at the same address, which is 408 West G Street at apartment 51, where the fake sun is seen, as you'll see in the image. And as I capture that evidence, the mentally ill are provoked, and they rely on the demon-possessed psychopath who you see walking by me in plain sight, threatening my life on video. And that's also why she's going to a mental asylum. And the state that's gang stalking through the likes of not only Tracy Banks, but this demon in Unit 55 and all the rest of them gang stalking on video. As you'll understand, where the entity is surrounded by the evidence, it becomes very foolish what the entity is now doing in plain sight. And it's also very foolish because they do so as they continuously accumulate damages, as they accumulate time with regard to prison time, with regard to time that they will remain confined in straitjackets, in padded rooms, for example, in cells in isolation where they can't harm other people, they can't harm themselves. All right, and this is just inherent to the mental illness exhibited, where Satan is a hostile actor. Satan is the source, by the way, of a furious spirit that causes people to murder, causes people to just blow themselves up and everyone else in their path, causes people to go on a rampage with their vehicle and kill as many as they can before they drive off of a bridge, that causes people to harm children in ways unspeakable. That spirit is what animates the demon possessed. It comes from Satan. And so Satan's fury is being acted out through the people of the state, who get louder, who get more spectacular in the ways in which they engage in the elements of monitoring. And because they do so as a population of demons, okay, remember all aspects of that is relevant to what is domestic terrorism. And you're not avoiding being placed in a facility, if not for the rest of your life. Okay, this is again demons in units 33 through 64. in the physical presence in the path. That is inside of the apartment 51, all of the demons in units 33 through 64, this building and the building adjacent to it, they maintain criminal surveillance present in the path that is relevant positioning. They are at no time abandoning presence in the path as an entity. Because you're engaged in 24-hour facilitation, you are going to prison. The demon in unit number 55 and 51, but the demon in unit number 55, who you see on video crossing path, and she is heavily documented in a lot of the video evidence, she is basically never going to be left alone with any child if she has grandchildren that, you know. But this is, again, for her own good and for the safety of the public. She's going to a mental asylum, and that's based on what she has provided as evidence against her, because this terrorist is monitoring the evidence. And so she has made a deliberate decision to expose her mental illness. And based on that mental illness, speaking to a national security concern, she's going to an asylum. Everyone else is going to prison up and until they provide me evidence that you are speaking to the need for rehabilitative services in a mental asylum, like Tracy Banks. Okay, like the demons that are gang stalking in helicopters, and however it is that I document that. But gang stalking in planes and helicopters, period, is psychotic. Okay, but it is prison by default. But for state actors, so the state that likes to just drop off at the drop of a dime in order to facilitate, and you're going to prison for emptying the garbage at the facilitating venue. That's the prize you win for gang stalking with the state. Okay, and the demon Paul Leon is not ignorant that he has a bunch of demons employed with the municipality. I've been documenting the demons of the city of Ontario, by the way, for years. For years. So the demon that's throwing her body around, the demon that's supposedly so Herculean in strength that it's some reverberating amplified boom, okay, while she is walking by and not leaving any potholes in the concrete, however, outside under the fake sun nonetheless. That level of impunity of gang stalking me in my face, that level of impunity of engaging in more and more psychological torture, which is imputed to the entire entity, is directly relevant to how each and every last one of them, when they stand individually before the federal judge, is going to be prosecuted. All right. And damages, again, AVANATH never ceases to remain civilly liable. It's currently 3:21 p.m. and this is additional notes because as I document, again, Satan is immediately provoked as I capture that fake sun, because Satan hates the fact that I have provided the world the formula for you to identify him yourself. And he uses people. Hence, this is a mentally deranged psychopath throwing her body around and stalking in the path while the supernatural, okay? Because there's nothing that this demon is doing that's creating an earthquake. Nothing about knocking on the door. As you heard Tracy Banks walk outside, in the same way, knocking on the screen door, it's not even the door. While you're knocking on the metal door outside of the front door, that's never going to cause the couch to vibrate and shake. These are psychological torture tactics. While Satan is present in the environment, Satan is a spirit, Satan is present through the people around, and they act as though nothing is going on while they are together targeting someone. That's psychological torture. You're going to prison and you're going to asylums. All right. It's currently, again, 3:22 p.m. I wanted to make sure I add these notes. I will be publishing this, and everything is going onto the Google Drive. All right. My website, where you can see the years of evidence, is this is the P.O.C.wordpress.com, and my YouTube channel, where I maintain chiefly videos, because YouTube is a content for looking at videos. It is evidence against the state of California to prosecute. It is also that which for the world to understand what it is that's being described. Yes, it is embarrassing to the demon possessed. It's my job to shame Satan, and that's exactly what I enjoy doing. That, in addition to what is most importantly, I'm advocating on behalf of the ordinary target individual, and I'm prosecuting the state of California, and I am also openly shaming Satan and all who Satan uses. All right. If you don't know Christ, you need to get to know him as your personal Lord and Savior, because Satan is causing people to live in shame that they will never, ever forget. And no one else is going to forget it either, because it's going to sit on their criminal record. It's currently, again, 3:23 p.m. This is POC, ongoing psychological torture, while, again, this is like a lap dog who's just walking around in circles, monitoring. And that's mental illness at work on a human being. Okay? POC. All right, as a additional note, this is analytical, so that's why I'm just adding more notes. You will see in the pictures that I captured at 3 o'clock, approximately 3 o'clock. Let me just be precise. Let me look at the time. I took pictures capturing the fake sun in alignment with my person as I'm sitting on the couch in the living room at apartment number 51 at 408 West G Street in Ontario, California. By the way, science and common sense dictates that there is not possibly any sun that ever reached Florida, that ever left the property of Woodside Senior Apartments where I am positioned. Because remember, if it's over even G Street, where you would see it over, for example, 7-Eleven, it's not going to be in alignment through the living room window. It's very precise, very specific, very detailed where this fake sun is. As I capture that image at 252, and the demons that are monitoring through the one that's in unit 55, who begins throwing her body because Satan is hostile as I expose him, and the demon possessed who surround engage in activity creation at a more aggressive manner because Satan is increasingly hostile as I continuously expose him. And as you witness that, and the demon possessed around you become more and more, I would analyze that as violent in their element, as they are, in their engagement in the elements, that's a threat. And you're going to quantify that with regard to damages, and you're also going to accumulate that in time in prison and the mental asylums. Nonetheless, Satan's animosity, Satan's hostility to my exposing him is directly linked to the behavior of the demon possessed. So they get louder. The demons will arrive in a dumpster truck to get louder with amplified audible activity. The demons will arrive in helicopter to get louder in some sort of great show of, I'm powerful, I'm going to gang stalk you in helicopter. That's Satan. Those are demons. All right. And they're going to asylums for that type of behavior. That's very heavily documented. So the Ontario Police Department is going to be disbanded. So they're done as an entire department even existing. But this is creating a precedent regarding the type of conduct that requires a specific federal response. And you should be aware of that this is demonic activity. Satan is present through people and in the environment. And there is a direct link with regard to my documentation, what it is that I expose about Satan, even as I show you the specific environment and the behavior of the demon possessed. That's resulting in following in the prosecution of the demon possessed. All right. This is an unemployed demon that makes very poor decisions. Maybe that's why she doesn't have a job at over 55 years old and cannot afford to pay her own rent while she's stalking someone else while inside of her apartment. It's very sad at this big age that she's at, and does so clearly with a level of boldness, because she provides her identity. I don't need it, but she provides her identity. You'll see her on the video captured today wearing the gray sweats and the black t-shirt with the ponytail and the blonde hair. This is the demon who Satan is using like a puppet doll, and it's very sad. She needs Christ, and she needs it so bad that now she's being judged to the extent that she's being federally prosecuted for domestic terrorism that she will never live down, and she's not going to be able to just move into another apartment complex. She's not going to be able to just get a job anywhere because she's going to need help getting rent paid somehow. All right. But that's again at what point she is released from the mental asylum. She's going for a prolonged period. All right. You're talking about what is evidence supporting enhanced sentencing for placement in the mental asylum. Nonetheless, this is witchcraft. And as I captured the fake sun at 2:52 p.m., you will see the engineer light that's appearing on the couch. That's light that's shooting like a laser through the window. And then you're also mindful, never forget the rest of the evidence. The engineer light, also supposedly sunlight, ricochets off of the window and also creates the shape of the window on the sidewalk outside. So it's bouncing off the window and then it's also shooting through the window, creating lines on the couch of light. So as you see that fake sun, as I capture another video of it, you'll see the fake sun is not capable of it's totally gone, and the engineer light is gone. It's never naturally occurring in the first place. So I just want you to pay attention to that, not only as it arrives, but also as it disappears, and the fake sun has not gone anywhere. It remains at the same location. None of it is sunlight in it. And the engineer light that I'm capturing inside, the engineer light that you see appears, the engineer light that covers everywhere. None of this is sunlight. That might be difficult for your mind to compute, but there is an illusion that we have been conditioned to accept, that you see a light source in the sky and that everything that's covered in light is the product of that object. It's all sunlight. And actually it is not. And my evidence also proves that. Sunlight does not cause, sunlight is not the product of driving underneath the sun and it swipes across the sidewalk and across buildings. That's not sunlight. It's not sunlight that's appearing underneath covered structures. Underneath the patio, sunlight is reaching at an angle underneath where it would all be shaded. It reaches into Tracy Banks's bedroom window who also, it's not only is it that a covered patio, but her blinds are closed. It reaches through underneath a covered patio through closed blinds, appearing on her bed, on the wall, on the floor, behind her mirror and dresser, on the what would be the east bedroom wall, opposite the TV that I'm looking at. There's light behind that furniture. It has nothing to do with the fake sun. These are two distinct methods. This is an ongoing illusion that's right in front of your face. It is the identification of Satan that is present in the environment, and it's also how you know that you're subject to surveillance. And I've also proven it because the sunlight, for example, as you would refer to it, that's on the ceiling inside of this apartment that frames the front door, that shoots through the peephole, that's not the product of sunlight. Sunlight doesn't do that. And it exists. An engineered light, I have shown engineered light exists in the shade. When the fake sun is not there and your mind is making an automatic connection with light that you see and the sun that you see. The engineered light has nothing, in fact, to do with the light source. I have captured the engineered light on my ceiling where the fake sun is outside of my living room window at Alvarado Gardens, and the engineered light with the pattern of the blinds is on my ceiling, and even though that's not even intelligent, but like I said, the pattern of the blinds is on the ceiling. That's not sunlight, while the fake sun is outside of that window, and it's also not sunlight, while the fake sun is on an entirely different part of the building, on the opposite side of the building, and yet that engineered light is sitting on my ceiling. The engineered light has nothing to do with the light source. You are surrounded in a specific environment, and Satan knows exactly what I expose about him as I take pictures on my phone, and the entity is keeping me under surveillance and keeping you under surveillance. What I document, however, is very infuriating to Satan, who is a spirit who is using every vessel that surrounds me, and they are going to be prosecuted for stalking. Now, while you are exhibiting the fact that you need Christ, you need deliverance, and your body is the vessel whereby Satan is tossing you about because of the demons that are on you, that's criminal engagement in audible activity, light activity, and relevant positioning, and you're going to be federally prosecuted for that. And the fact that you suffer from demon possession is not a criminal defense. It's greater context for the federal government and the federal courts and the rest of the world to understand what Satan is doing in this time, and how governments are maliciously targeting American citizens in ways that you have never heard of, that you would never be aware of, but for someone's ability. And it's really not fair to the ordinary target individual. It's not. But, praise God, it's here now. But it's not fair to the ordinary target individual who doesn't have the evidence. And by the way, the inability to prove that someone is doing something to you in an unheard of method, it should never be the basis of assessing mental illness, like the demon-possessed, malicious psychopaths calling themselves mental health professionals do. All right, and I'm referencing the demons in the state of California. Perhaps there are legitimate medical professionals that are outside of the state of California, because I said exactly what I said. The state of California is filled with the demon-possessed, and the state of California has sought to murder me and sought to silence me from ever telling about it. And it includes the demons that are a part of law enforcement who act with a corrupt medical. They are filling the hospitals. They drop the EMTs. They're not necessarily but they're within an aspect of the medical profession, and they're gang stalking in ambulances. And then they have access and they go to hospitals where they're filled with demons, which I've also documented, being gang stalked in the hospital, fake sun over the hospital, amplified gang stalking by helicopter, engineer light inside of the hospital. And why? Because the entity kidnapped me. Okay, San Antonio Regional Hospital, no one has forgotten that you engaged in kidnapping on August 6, 2019. You are going to be prosecuted. They're in the city of Upland. All right? The entity is engaged in a very elaborate pattern of conduct, which is a state system that includes medical professionals who are demon-possessed, facilitating kidnapping and murder. Okay. By the way, another aspect of the system, this is how third parties, the people of the state, can conspire with the state to criminally defame me. This is how you get to that. That's how that formula, that's how you get to criminal defamation and accomplishing kidnapping. But nonetheless, you will see in the images that I captured, all of a sudden the fake sun is no longer seen through the blind slats and the light is no longer appearing on the couch. Now, the reason why it appeared is because, first of all, it's not sunlight. And you are looking at the ways that Satan is acting, and you think it's light. The light migrates toward me. The light that is in one location, and as I sit there, that light migrates closer to me. It moves and touches on my person. This is the work of Satan. It's not sunlight. It's not a natural environment as you understand it. It literally takes on a form of living. It's like a form of death, though. It's creepy living. Like where you are, the light wants to be around you, and then it wants to molest. The entity is always stalking with light, as I have referred to it. And because I was recording my podcast, that light appeared on the couch, and it through what is the impossible, albeit documented, meaning it is proven as of record. I proved the impossible by capturing what is the fake sun that is in perfect alignment with these blinds. And as I capture that, Satan that is irate, furious, begins throwing the body around inside of apartment 55. She's going to an asylum. She needs help. She needs serious help. And this is what fills police departments. That is terrifying. That's the reality, though. People who need serious help. This is a witch coven. This is the ritualistic practices of witchcraft. None of it is the natural environment. It is all supernatural. And the people who are demon possessed are, desperately trying to maintain nothing to see here, folks, type of behavior. It's all in the mind of the targeted individual. This did not work. This is not working at all. Everyone can see it. Okay. But this is how it's supposed to appear to the ordinary targeted individual. No evidence. Okay, can't articulate, doesn't even understand, probably not even paying attention to the fact that your genitalia, your body's being molested with light that's naturally occurring out of nowhere. You're not paying attention to that, but it is. It comes out of nowhere, and it's not sunlight. Okay, that's an act of psychological torture as well. While you're it's constructive presence of the state, and there are government actors who are going to prison for it. It's not far off and ambiguous and too distinct and separate and far off in order to identify and become actual. That's all nonsense. No, it's not. You know exactly who's gang stalking in the city. Where the fakes. You know exactly who's targeting at the specific environment where I'm showing you the P.O.C. And not only did I capture that, I showed you the same thing, the same formula as I went from city to city to city to city to county, even from state to state. All right. So the reaction in real time, that's psychological torture. Satan is using people to engage in criminal conduct, federal stalking on my device, all of my devices, and in real time monitoring the evidence that's being captured, obstruction of justice, ongoing psychological torture because I'm documenting obstruction of justice and psychological torture relevant to damages and relevant to time that you are going to be confined. And everything is state action. The state is acting at all times directly and vicariously, and the entire city is being documented as I remain at Woodside Senior Apartments. And that is based on the fact that the whole fake sun is nowhere else in the city of Ontario. The city of Ontario is gang stalking me. The fake sun is nowhere else in the state of California. Based on the natural environment as it's defined, I've shown you what is impossible. The sun being over the reporter in the Pacific Palisades, and I'm showing you it hasn't moved from the same building. I'm showing you it's through the living room window at 2:52 in the afternoon. Yeah, we're all under surveillance here, and you're going to prosecute based on the entity's malicious engagement in a pattern of conduct that is in every way supernatural, and it is designed to be out of the ability, beyond the natural, or excuse me, I am a natural person, beyond an ordinary person's ability to describe, to understand, or even fathom what they're subject to. Like, what is causing the couch to vibrate? What is that sound through the walls? Why is it occurring every time I move? Why is the building vibrating? If you pay attention to the level of detail, every time you begin documenting, or not even documenting, every time you start crying about the fact that you're seeing police everywhere and it's scaring you, and then the police arrive again in helicopter, and the apartment building starts shaking, and the person above you starts running around in circles all over, and this is a horrifying, chaotic environment. That's psychological torture. Everybody's going to federal prison for that. And I've been very detailed about who's where, who's doing what, and what's the entity's purpose behind what it does as it does it. Because they're also monitoring what I am doing, documentation. So we're getting outside of what the demons know what's going on in my mind. We've made it material. It's tangible. While I'm documenting criminal monitoring, by the way, that's evidence that the demon possessed are monitoring your thoughts. While they're monitoring my documentation, however, tangible evidence is being created, which they are not coincidentally nor ignorantly stalking in concert to with simultaneity to that. Moreover, in the specific environment and as a matter of a pattern of conduct amongst different police stations in different environments. Alvarado Gardens is not a coincidence with regard to what is Woodside Senior Apartments, for example. The demons on Vine Avenue and the demons on the 10 freeway in Monrovia, California. The demons on the 210 freeway, gang stalking in the same exact. When is the sun ever over the 10 freeway adjacent to the Monrovia Courtyard by Marriott when it's sitting over the Woodside Senior Apartments building, seen through the window of Tracy Banks' living room at apartment 51? The answer is never. It's not. The entire state is being prosecuted, and you need to understand that Satan is infuriated because he's been exposed. And it's a threat, an unlawful threat, a criminal act, an act of against violating national security concerns, while a population in concert with the government is of the same condition, gang stalking one person. Why? Because they serve Satan. It is currently 3:41 p.m. I just wanted to add that additional context. And what you'll see is in the images that I captured, the light is no longer on the couch. The light source is no longer seen through the blinds. It's never occurring naturally in the first place. So you're talking about what's going on an ongoing basis all day long. The fake sun is just appearing through the blinds. And vacillating. In other words, Satan is just maintaining this fake sun over the building, migrating very slowly from the beginning till the end of the day. An engineered light that has nothing to do with the placement of the fake sun, in the same way that the fake sun over the same building all day long does not cause light shooting horizontally through the peephole. Okay, multiple layers of like plastic in the hole that's used to see outside who's out your door. There's no sunlight shooting through that. And it's also at a horizontal angle. So you're talking about perpendicular light. It's coming downward and then it's bending at some angle inside of it. It's totally absurd and unintelligent. What is it showing? Obsession, though. You're stalking. You're stalking with light. Obsession with this light to keep me under surveillance. You're going to be prosecuted for that. Okay? While you throw your body around because Satan is hostile to the fact that all of his tactics are being exposed, that takes on the form of a person who has a name, who becomes a defendant, acting on behalf of a public entity who is going to be prosecuted for domestic terrorism. That's how you get to the criminalization of the demonic system of federal group stalking and monitoring. All right. It is currently, again, 3:43 p.m. right now. And when I captured, also another note, 2:52 p.m., that's the same position of the fake sun through the same window after 4 p.m., where the entity is engaging in a quote unquote setting of the sun. All right. It's in the same exact position. It's amber colored light at after 4 o'clock in the afternoon, 4:20, where the entity has amber colored light. It's on the same exact couch, through the same window at the same position at the bottom of the window. The entity did the same thing. Why did they do that? It's based on what I'm doing. I was recording the podcast, so the entity is stalking me with light, like a person would be stalking you, doing so with light. That's what that was. That's why that happened, and I documented it. And as the entity is monitoring me online, federal stalking, the demon possessed that are monitoring communication devices, and this is the ability to prosecute in the natural what the demon possessed are doing in the spirit, and doing through devices. This demon begins throwing their body around and stomping about. The city of Ontario arrives to empty the garbage as a means of amplification under a fake sun. Very foolish, begging for federal prison. It's very easy to wind up in federal prison. Very easy when you're gang stalking with the state. And that's exactly what's accomplished when you're doing so. And this is because Satan is hostile. So Satan uses more and more people coming out, pacing around, getting louder, using more spectacular means. Okay, that's what that's about. And it's a threat to your life, safety, well-being, and overall, your overall well-being and your liberty. All right, that's ongoing analysis. It's currently 3:44 p.m. The demon in unit number 55, license 5WUV715. She is gang stalking, and I want to be clear, Tracy Banks intentionally and deliberately seeking to avoid my mentioning her name. This demon thinks that she's crafty. She couldn't possibly think she's intelligent, but she does think she's crafty. She's been practicing witchcraft since I was a child, and she left the apartment. She remains a part of the pattern of conduct. Her mental illness is on full display while the demons are monitoring me, while the fake sun is in alignment to me inside of her apartment, while the demon possessed are gang stalking with amplified audible activity, while her couch is vibrating and I'm sleeping on it, and somebody is knocking on the metal the metal mesh door that has nothing to do with the couch vibrating at the same time. These are demons that are her mental illness, in other words, is on full display and is brought into the controversy amongst other collateral acts that are relevant to showing her motive for gang stalking her daughter, thinking that she was going to make money off of it, and that the state was going to profit off of it, that she was going to steal property that belongs to me, that she was going to remove me. And this demon essentially is very deceived, thinking that you're going to replace me in my existence and what I've done, and it was never going to happen. This is the great deceit of Satan, and it's unfortunate. Not only is it embarrassing, okay, for the demon possessed, Satan does not like to be exposed, okay? These demons, let me be clear, they do not like the fact that that they're demon possessed. They don't like it at all. They also don't like the fact that I've shown you the environment, the fake sun, the engineered light. The entity is relying on the fact, what is a fake sun? As though that has anything to do with the probative value of the evidence, speaking to what is beyond any natural any coincidence and any natural occurrence. That's what any fact-based investigation is going to consist of, not some demon, all right, that serves Satan, that is desperate to hope that nobody gives ear to the evidence of the demonic and malicious system. That's why it's demonic. It's malicious. Okay, targeting someone in ways that defy nature, that defy what someone has ever heard of. That's what Satan is doing. And using demons that can't even comprehend the ways in which they've been surrounded with evidence and how this evidence is going to demolish them in federal court. Though that it's hardly diminishing the probative value of the evidence, because the demons are fearful of it and they just say, what's a fake sun? While they're stalking me, by the way. Okay, that's Satan. Satan is like a roaring lion seeking whom he may devour. He's not a lion. He's like a roaring lion. So if you don't know the enemy, if you don't know that he has no authority, if you don't know that he's actually a desperate fool that has nothing against you and can't touch you, okay, then you might be fearful of it. You might feel intimidated by it. You might be perplexed as to what to do about it, especially if you don't know Christ Jesus, who has given the key. Okay, he provided the formula. He's the one that told about what the demons are doing, and I'm just reporting on it. All right. It is currently 3:47 p.m. Ongoing psychological torture. The demon above in Unit 55. It's just ongoing. This is, again, a person whose mental illness is being acted out, manifested in their behavior. Okay. And when she stands in federal court, when the people of the state, all the demons in Units 33 through 64 are acting in concert, you never cease to engage in the pattern of conduct of an entity by yourself. So if you want to rob a bank with somebody who wants to just kill the bank tellers for no reason while you're getting the money, you're going down for murder as well. Okay, this demon that has nothing to lose, has no job, can't pay her rent, walks even outside to stalk me. Okay, is engaging in the criminal elements of monitoring with the entire entity, and they're all going to prison for it. Every single last one. This podcast is evidence, the video evidence, all of the documentation where I'm writing at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, where this demon is sitting above me on the couch, following me as I go to the kitchen, following as I go to the bathroom, stalking with noise as I touch my laptop, as I watch videos on YouTube, whatever it is that I'm doing. They're all going to be prosecuted with it together because it's a crime committed by an entity. And they're all going to prison for it. So you're going to prison for even longer as I continuously document the entity's impunity. And by the way, you know that they belong in federal prison longer. I walk outside and they're all they're monitoring. These senior citizens are working toward federal prison. This is where they're going to spend the rest of their aged lives. All right. And Satan continuously uses their old aged bodies, okay, liver spots and all, to engage in the same exact pattern of conduct. The same exact one, the same exact mental illness. A demon that can't walk upright needs a cane, but fully capable of being in relevant position while all manner of demonic and supernatural noise is created inside of an apartment. Not sleeping. The demon possessed over 55 years old, they're up at 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning, booming and banging. They're not sleeping while the demons are flying in helicopter over their apartments, and none of them are complaining about it. None of them are complaining about how hot it is over their units, while the fake sun remains all day long. All day long. These domestic terrorists are engaged in psychological torture And in the United States, it shall be that the elderly citizens in the state of California engaged in domestic terrorism and psychological torture and furtherance of the state's conspiracy to murder and kidnap an American citizen, you're going to be treated like the barbaric animals that you are. You're going to prison and asylums accordingly. And that is the demons at Woodside Senior Apartments Units 33 through 64, AVANATH Capital Management employees who live at the venue and also who work in the front office. They're going to federal prison. They're gang stalking systematically, so they're going for that reason. The entity, because AVANATH is also profiting, that's why. That's why AVANATH employees are being focused on with regard to prison, because all 144 units are gang stalking. Going to prison, going to an asylum is because it's very superficial. If the federal government wanted to override, which I would be over the moon about, the fake moon about, the entire property, going to prison, because that's what they're doing. And it's really superficial to dissect between demons in 33 through 64, and all 144 units are in relevant position on the same grounds of the venue. But then you get to where do you draw that line of superficiality, because all the demons on Vine Avenue and G Street and on F Street and on E Street and on C Street and on Euclid and on Hope Boulevard, they're all in relevant position. So that's why I had created that distinction, because they all are. And it is systematic. And it is worthy of federal prison, but it's not practical. So that is the rationale behind that. But you could do 144, all of the demons at the venue. But like I said, I'll digress there. It is currently, again, 3:51 p.m. This is psychological torture underway by the entity. All right. That's psychological torture underway by the state. All right. And it's going to be under the names of very specific actors who are not hiding. There's no ambiguity here. There is no vagueness at all. And the entity is acting as one. And it's very foolish because they're gang stalking together, having conflicting interests, which they'll realize in federal court. And the entity is engaging in that which is to its own demise. And that is the judgment of God. It really is. It's providence. All right. This is P.O.C. It's currently 3:52 p.m.